And now we're ready. Thanks for your patience. First of all, I'd like to thank you for participating in ABCA's public roll call hearings via the WebEx platform provided by the Office of Open Government. My name is Laverne Fletcher. I'll be conducting the roll call hearings as the board's agent. There are two cases on the calendar today. The first case on the calendar is H3, case number 25PRO 00017, OJ-ODD Jobs, Inc., 1613 17th Street Northwest, license number ABRA 1299096. This is a medical cannabis retailer, new application, including endorsements for home delivery, education, tasting, safe use and treatment facility. The protest issues or adverse impact on peace, order, and quiet. My name is Laverne Fletcher, conducting the roll call hearing as the board's agent. Is anyone present on behalf of the applicant? Is anyone present on behalf of H3? Is anyone present on behalf of ANC 2B?
Yes, Lawrence Sprouse.
Thank you, Mr. Sprouse. Would you state your name and spell it for the record, please?
Sure, it's Lawrence Sprouse. That's spelled S-P-R-O-W-L-S.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sprouse. ANC 2B has standing as a protestant. Is anyone present on behalf of H3?
Can I answer why the person isn't here?
Oh, Mr. Sprouse, sure you can.
I met with the applicant, Darius Holston, back in March, and I prepared an agreement, a settlement agreement. Unfortunately, he in late March, he went in the hospital, according to his daughter, and became unavailable. And since then, he apparently continues to be unavailable. So he has not signed the settlement agreement. He didn't designate authority to sign on his behalf. So it's not a surprise that he's not here, because he's the applicant and he's the person who has authority and responsibility for the this shop.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Good morning. I'm the representative for OJ All Jobs Inc. Roll call hearing. Sorry, we didn't find the link for a while this morning, since my client didn't have direct access to the email right now. Sorry for being late.
Okay, well, thank you. You showed up just in time. You're the representative for H3?
Yes, I'm their attorney.
Okay, thank you very much. Could you state your name and spell it for the record, please?
Yeah, it's Yutong Zhou, YUTONGZHOU, for the applicant.
Okay, thank you. Second. Mr. Joe, I don't know how much you heard before you signed on, but Mr. Sprouse was saying that he had presented the applicant with a settlement agreement for consideration, which the applicant has not yet responded to because he was hospitalized and has not been available. Are you familiar with that situation?
Yes, that is correct. So the owner and the sole owner of All Jobs Inc., Mr. Halston, he has been hospitalized since I think February, and he's just got better and he's been transferred home recently, but he's still not fully capable yet of approving any sort of legal documents yet, and none of us, including me, the attorney, has actual authority to sign on his behalf. So So our ask is, I wonder if ABCA can just, maybe we can schedule all the status hearings up until the protest date, and we can see if Mr. Halston can recover by the protest petition date, and if not, so maybe we can ask for continuance some time before that.
Okay, so what we're gonna do, thank you for that. First of all, for the court reporter, I need to spell the name of the applicant, Darius Holston. The name is spelled, the first name is spelled D like dog, Arius. The last name is Holston, spelled Holston. Mr. Sprouse and Mr. Joe, what I'm gonna do, I'm going to proceed with setting a date for mediation, a status hearing, and a protest hearing. And if those dates aren't needed because a settlement agreement is submitted to the board for approval, then all of these dates will be canceled. The date for the status hearing is May the 21st, 2025 at 10:30 a.m. That's the status hearing. The date for the protest hearing is June 11, 2025 at 1:30 p.m.
Ma'am,
So who's speaking, please?
this is Lawrence Sprouse.
Yes.
I have a vacation planned overseas between between May 15th and June 13th. I guess I thought all this would be taken care of before I left.
Between May 15 and June 13?
Correct.
Okay, 1 second.
Is there a reason that Mr. Holson hasn't authorized you to just sign the agreement and that would make this all go away?
Oh, Mr. Sprouse, let me say this. I should have said it before. Before you speak, just state your name for the court reporter, please.
Sure.
And so could you state your question again, please?
This is Lawrence Sprouse. Question to Mr. Zhu. Is there a reason that Darius hasn't given you authority to just sign the application, sign the agreement, and this would just all go away? Because an ANC and the applicant would have agreed on this settlement, and it's already been reviewed by his daughter, who is the operations manager for this shop.
Yeah, I understand, but the fact of the matter is that Darius essentially had a stroke, and he's just simply, we haven't even talked ever since, because he's now he's incapacitated, essentially, we can say that. So I don't, and for us, we're his lawyers, and we can't exactly make the signed settlement on behalf of our clients. And yeah, I understand Marquita, and that's Darius' daughter. I mean, we are all okay with the terms of the settlement. That's all fine, but we just need is like final approval. That's it.
So what's going to have to happen here is I'm going to give you, leave you with the dates that I've already provided. Those are the dates available on the board's calendar. What you may do is file a joint request if you're both in agreement with changing those dates to a later date. Mr. Sprouse, you said that you're on vacation until June 13.
Correct.
So you won't be here for a protest hearing or a status hearing. So my first question is whether or not there's someone else at the ANC that could be designated to represent the ANC in your absence. And if not, then you would need to file a motion with the ABC board to continue these dates to later dates. So what's your preference?
I will certainly ask if one of the other ANC commissioners is willing to take responsibility in my absence. That's a good idea.
Mr. Joe, let me ask you this. Have you seen the settlement agreement yet?
Yes.
Presented by the ANC?
Yes, I have.
Okay, so you just haven't had a time to review it or to advise your client about it because of his condition?
Yes, I've reviewed and my client's daughter has reviewed it. We agreed to the terms, but we just didn't have the chance for our client to finally sign off.
I understand. So you've got the date for the status hearing and you've got the date for the protest hearing and the times. So
Um,
Yeah, the status
excuse me,
hearings.
this is Lawrence Sprouse again. I'm sorry, could you repeat those dates?
yeah, I can. Just 1 second. I will do that. The day for the status hearing is May the 21st at 10:30 a.m. The protest hearing is June 11, 2025 at 1:30 p.m.
And so if I, this is Lawrence again, if I am able to find one of my commissioners who's willing to do this, then I would inform the office and then the WebEx link would be sent to that person rather than to me.
Yes, you would send an email to ABCA Legal,
Oh, okay.
And let them know who the designated representative will be in your absence, and provide us with that person's email address so that we could send
Right.
notifications to that person. Yes, that's what you would do. And you would also send a copy to Mr. Joe.
Yeah, I'll consent to any sort of continuous request.
And so what we need to do next is set a date for mediation. So we'll still need to set that date. You're leaving on May 15, Mr. Sprouls?
Yes.
Mr. Joe, I understand that at this point you have no way of knowing whether or not the applicant will be available for this mediation.
That's correct, unfortunately.
And you don't have a way of knowing at this point if the applicant will have the ability to sign an agreement. I'm going to go ahead and give you a date for mediation and we'll see what happens.
Thank you.
You're very welcome. So I'm going to give you the date for mediation. That's the date that you and Mr. Sprouls would need to appear, unless you hear anything different from me. And if you appear, we'll talk about where things stand at that time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. The next available day for mediation, let's see. Mr. Sprouls, you're leaving on the 15th for vacation. We can put something on the calendar for May 12th for mediation, if that would be helpful for you.
Sure, that's fine.
Would that
We
work for
need to
you?
we need to do the mediation even though we have agreed on what the content of the settlement agreement is.
Yes, because it hasn't been signed yet, and or it hasn't been signed or submitted to the ABCA Legal.
Got it.
And if that happens before May 15, before the status hearing on the 21st, then we would cancel the status hearing. And if the board approves the agreement, then the June 11 protest hearing would also be canceled. So right now, we're just going to proceed as we normally would, and we'll just see what happens as we move along.
Okay.
And the
So
third,
May 12th, and what would the time be?
the time would be 11:30 or 1:30. Mr. Joe, would that work for you? That's next Monday, May 12 at 11:30 or 1:30.
Sorry, just 1 second. May 12.
Okay.
Yes, either will work.
Then let's make it 11:30 on May the 12th for mediation, and I'll send you the WebEx invitations to attend that mediation, and we can talk about where things stand at that time.
Got it. Thank you.
You're very welcome. Any questions at all? And Mr. Joe,
Not from me.
Mr. Joe, do I have your email address?
Yes, I actually just emailed you this morning for this link, so I think you should
Perfect.
have now. Yeah, we can continue the email chain there. So
Yes, thank you. I actually saw your email, but I was here, so I couldn't respond. So I'm
Ah.
glad you were able to show up.
all right.
So then I will include you in the record as the representative for H3. At some point, we'll need your attorney designation
Yes, we'll
email,
provide
just
that.
and which you may have already done, but if you haven't, if you would, for the record, let us know that you're representing the H3.
Yes, I'll file a appearance since the
Notice of
attorney,
okay, thank you.
since the attorney designation form also requires client signature. So
Exactly.
yeah.
Well, if there are no questions, then and I don't know if you were here at the time that I said that ANC 2B has standing as a protestant, Mr. Joe, but that's just FYI in case you weren't here at that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes.
If there are no questions, I'll conclude the mediation in this case. Thank you for coming, and I will see you on May 12 at 11:30.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. See you
Thank you
guys.
very much. Mr. Sproles?
Bye-bye.
Okay, I'll see you then.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
The roll call hearing in the matter of H3 is concluded. There is one more case on the calendar for today. This is the case of International House of Prayer for All People, case number 25PRO 00010, 1915 Rhode Island Avenue Northeast, license number ABRA 130347. This is a catered event site protest. The protest issues are adverse impact on peace, order, and quiet, real property values, and residential parking and vehicular and pedestrian safety. My name is Laverne Fletcher, conducting the roll call hearing as the board's agent. Is there anyone present on behalf of the International House of Prayer for All People?
Good morning. My name is Mariah Ogunfidi to me, representing International House of Prayer.
Thank you. Could you please spell your name for the court reporter?
That's Morayo. Last name is Ogunfiditi.
Thank you very much. Is it okay if I call you Mariah?
Yes, that's fine.
Thank you very much. Can you clarify something for me? Are you, I don't know if this is your first name, but I have a name, an additional name on the record that appears to be yours. It appears to be spelled Odunomoreo. Is that you?
Mariah. Yep, that's me.
So I'm going to spell that now since I've said it. That I have that it's spelled Odunmorayo. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you very much. So, Mr. Morayo,
Yes.
here on behalf of the International House of Prayer for All People, or are you here? Who are you here on behalf of? So we need some
International House of
clarity in
Prayer
this
for All
case.
People.
So you're here on behalf of the International House of Prayer for All People.
Yes.
Okay, and what is your title?
I'm the administrator.
Okay, you're the administrator. 1 second, please. So you're the administrator of the International House of Prayer for All People?
Yes.
So I'm going to have some additional questions for you, but before I do that, I'm going to move to who are the protestants that have standing, and then I'll come back to the questions. Is there anyone present on behalf of ANC 5C?
Yes, Commissioner Vijay Kapoor, Vijay Kapur, and I represent ANC 5C on this matter.
Thank you, Commissioner Kapoor. Is anyone present on behalf of a group of 5 or more?
Yes, this is Sean Collins, SeanCollins.
Mr. Collins, is there anyone else present from your group today?
My wife, Danny Yanoka, is here, but she just texted me and said she's having internet issues, but she may be still.
Is she is she present right now?
She's listed in the room right now, but it's unclear to me whether or not she's able to address the group.
Okay, so so she's not present right now, but she wants to be.
Yes.
Okay. So what I'm going to do in that case is I'm noting the fact that you're present. If she shows up, then I'll add her to the list of attendees today. Mariah. So we're needing to have some clarity in this case in terms of who the parties are. And so you're here on behalf of the House of Prayer.
Yes.
Okay. Do you know who is the caterer that had a license to hold the event at your establishment?
You said, do I know the caterer?
Well, yeah, because so we're here because there was a catered event held
Mm-hmm.
at the International House of Prayer for All People located at 1915 Rhode Island Avenue Northeast. Is that your address?
Yes.
We're here because there was a catered event held at that location.
Okay.
And there was a lot of disturbance in the community. And so the ANC
Because of that event, or
of so do you know anything about the reason that we're here at this point? That
I do, but I wanted to, because you said it was about a catered event. So I wanted to know if the complaint was, based on that particular catered event or
yes.
not. Okay.
Yes. And so you received a copy of the protest letters.
Yes.
And so you would know who the caterer was. The caterer is a party to this. We need to know who the caterer was. The community complained about a catered event. And so that caterer would have entered into an agreement with the House of Prayer to have a catered event at the location.
Yes.
So we need to know who the caterer is because the caterer is also a party to this protest because we're here because of an event that they held at your location.
Got you. Let's see.
So let's see here. I'll let you look through your records. I'm going to look at what I have.
This is Vijay Kapoor. Ms. Fletcher, may I?
Please.
So just to clarify, the events in question are ongoing. This is a matter going on occasion, probably multiple times a week for months. Part of the board order was requesting that the applicant, by the roll call hearing, which we're currently in, supply a list of events and the applicable caterers for those events.
That's right. The board order says that on or before the roll call hearing, the property owner shall file a list of licensed caterers that have used the property, the date of each event, the number of people that attended within the past 2 years. That is what the board order.
And I did ask, as a follow-up to that order, what the consequences would be if that were not supplied. And the response I got was essentially, this is a rare case type, and I can't, I believe it was someone from ABCA Legal couldn't tell me exactly what the consequences would be. And that the board would have to decide. And so it does appear that that's what's occurred. And so then a decision will need to be made about how we proceed.
That is exactly right. So I'll ask I will ask Mario if that list has been submitted, because at this point, I'm not aware that it's been submitted. Mario, do you know if that list has been submitted of caterers over the last 2 years?
No, but to my knowledge, we typically don't do business with caterers. The person in question, I'm looking for a name. I had it just a few
Well,
minutes.
so who engages in agreements with the House of Prayer to hold events?
Usually members, or it could be, somebody from the community that uses the space. But it could be for a baby shower or for something like that. But we don't typically just do business with caterers.
Does a person have to file an application or submit a request of some sort to hold an event there?
They have to inquire. Yes, they do have to inquire about doing an event here. But we don't supply any catering or anything like that.
Well, I'm just wondering if there's a possibility that that someone applied to use your space as a caterer, and maybe you weren't aware of it. I don't know, because I don't know what kind of records you keep. But let's look at, so do you by any chance have a list of caterers present at this time, or no? A list of,
No,
well, let's
we
just say,
don't have.
okay. So at
I
this
don't have a
time,
list
go
of
ahead.
caterers. Actually, the only caterer that I know that was brought to my attention was the party to this hearing.
And who is that? Which caterer is that?
I'm trying to find her. I just had her name somewhere here. My apologies.
No problem. Take your time.
Exactly. Geronda Hilton. Geronda Hilton.
So our understanding is that Miss Hilton is not a party to this case. If I recall correctly, um, just one second. Is that name, first of all? Can you spell it for the record?
Um,
Geronda.
Jeronda. That's her first name. The last name is Hilton, Hilton. That's who was named.
Okay, and she actually contacted us to let us know that she is not a party to this case. If I recall correctly, she may have been um, a contact for caterer, or I'm not exactly sure at this moment. I'll find out. But it would not be the person. But where did you get her name from?
That's the name that was presented to me in the for the roll call hearing.
So let me ask you this. Let me ask. I have a question for. Second here. I have a question for Mr. Kapoor. Commissioner
Yes,
Kapoor.
I'm here.
Uh, I'm looking at your protest letter,
Mhm.
and I'm trying to help Moroyo out in terms of the event that was held at the House of Prayer. I'm just shortening the name, House of Prayer.
Mhm.
So in your protest letter, you mentioned an event held on October 2024.
Yeah, I presume that I mentioned multiple events. I can bring up
But
the
this
letter.
is just the first one. I'm just looking at your protest letter.
Yeah.
And
So
you did.
in order to file a protest, I needed to select a single event that occurred in the past 45 days.
Mhm.
Um,
So you mentioned that you filed this protest on January 14.
Oh yes, it wouldn't have been an October date. Here's what I know about the October date, and it also it's related to Miss Hilton, who you mentioned. The October date is the only date I could get from ABCA legal when an event occurred that ABCA had any record of. And so I believe ABCA doesn't necessarily have a record if a licensed caterer does an event. And in order for ABCA to get those records, they would have to, this exact proceeding had to occur. And so when I asked for ABCA to give me any records, all they could say was, well, if you do a catered site protest hearing, we can start doing the fact finding for that information. But the only thing they could give me was that one time Miss Hilton did file for an event that she had at the space for a single temporary license. And so that temporary licensure is the one record data point that I have. And so Miss Hilton is the one contact that you all have for somebody who was licensed by ABCA. And my understanding is she was licensed by ABCA because she was having an event. She rented the space for an event. She was told to get her own temporary licensure, and she did. And so she wouldn't be a subject to this protest, given that I filed the protest more than 45 days since her event. She would be on the list of 2 years worth of events and applicable caterers. In this case, she's not a caterer, but she is a temporary license. She's a temporary licensee by ABCA. But that list has not been submitted. The consequences of not submitting that list are unknown. I kind of anticipated this scenario occurring. My only reason specifically for filing a protest rather than engaging in directly trying to make an amicable settlement agreement happen was because I wanted this fact finding to occur, and it's not occurring.
I see. The list that the House of Prayer is supposed to provide is a list of licensed caterers. Ms. Hilton applied for a temporary license for an event. Based on that and what she told the staff here, she did what you said. She applied for a temporary license, which is not the same as being licensed as a caterer.
I take the correction. So she wouldn't be on the list, but the list should still exist.
That's exactly right. And so what I'm trying to figure out right now is the event that led to the filing of the protest. Mr. Moreo does not
Mariah.
have Moreo. What is it?
Mariah.
Morayo. Mr. Morayo does not have the list that's required, and so we don't have that list here today. And I'm just trying to figure out.
We don't have a list.
You've never had a catered event there?
No.
You've never had a licensed caterer to apply for to have an event at the establishment at the
No.
location?
No.
Okay,
It typically is pretty much what Geronda's situation is. If somebody rents the place and they're doing an event and they say they want to do alcohol or anything like that, we make sure that they go through the ABRA.
Okay. I'm just making notes. Just give me a moment.
Vijay Kapoor speaking. I just add that on the letter, towards the conclusion of the letter, I note a January 9th, 2025 event that I think I included specifically because, and as I have a January 11th, 2025 event. And so I include this, as I mentioned, this is an ongoing situation that occurs.
We can't hear you.
11th, because I needed something within the last 45 days. And so if we want to talk about a specific event, we can talk about January 11th. There was a complaint opened by, I'm pretty sure it was by Mr. Collins, and it does have an ABCA investigation identifier associated with that as well, which I'll read into the record. It's 25C0M dash quintuple 0 dash 00041.
And so what was the date of that event?
January 11th, 2025.
And that's in the protest letter of Mr. Collins?
Correct. It's in the, it should be in Mr. Collins' protest letter, but it is also in the ANC 5C protest letter. So there are two ANC 5C protest letters. The
Yes,
first
I
one,
see.
which failed to sufficient for ABCA's standards, name
Uh-huh.
the party. Yeah. So this is in the first one, which is
In the first
included as an attachment to the second one. So
Oh, I
either
see it.
document.
I see it in the first one now. Oh, okay. That was January 11, 2025, and you mentioned another date?
There is a January 9th.
January
So
9th.
January 9th is an email. January 5th, I have January 5th, an event with video evidence, and it was filed under a DLCP case, C89-0AC7CZ4.
Yes, I see that. So in the protest letter, you mentioned two dates of events. One was on January 5, 2025. The other one was on January 9, 2025. Mr. Pariah,
I believe January 9th was just a DLCP email. So
That's-
January 11th and January 5th were the two events mentioned.
okay. January 5th and January, did you say 11th?
Correct, 11th.
Mr. Mariah, do
Yes.
you by any chance have any record handy today of any events held there on January 5 or January 11, 2025?
Yes, actually, January 5th and January 11th were both events that were held by members of the church.
Okay, those were held by church members, okay.
Yes.
And they're not licensed caterers, they're church members.
Yes.
Or they would not be considered Protestants, just for the record. The Protestants in this case will be the International House of Prayer for All People and the licensed caterer. Based on what you're saying, Mr. Mario, the two events, January 5 and January 11, were not held by licensed caterers, but were held by members of your church.
Yes.
Commissioner, I have a question for you.
Sure.
Do you have any information to the contrary in terms of who the events were held by? I mean, the ANC filed the protest because you believe that those two events were held by caterers?
I presumed that was among a finite number of ways that alcohol could legally be served at an event for commercial purposes.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
But I do not know of a caterer or a named caterer in the case of those two events. Although, as I mentioned, these events are recurring, and there are cases where I or neighbors have engaged with specific named caterers that were operating on the premises. Additionally, I do want to flag that my understanding is based on the court order that International House of Prayer for All People itself is a licensed catering license holder.
We're not.
But they didn't hold an event. But the event wasn't held by the House of Prayer. It was held by, so the way this protest has been presented is this, that a licensed caterer held an event at the International House of Prayer for All People. That's the way this case has been presented. And so that's the way that I have been proceeding. Commissioner Kapoor, are you saying that the house of prayer held the event, as opposed to church members that the house of prayer itself held a catered event?
My purpose in filing the protest was in response to ABCA legal guidance that in order to do the kind of fact fighting we are currently attempting to do, to answer these exact questions, I would need to file a catered site protest.
I understand.
And so I cannot attest. I cannot correlate at this moment a specific event and a specific date and a specific caterer to a single event that occurred in the 45 days preceding what I presume to be the date of my second letter. At this moment, if I were given some time, maybe I could.
Well, I understand. Thank you.
But certainly the confluence of these three things, four things: alcohol service, commercial renting of the space, commercial operations, in confluence with alcohol service, and caterers on site, certainly within 2 years. These things all occurred.
And so,
I'm sorry. Could I ask the question?
yes. And
This is
who's
Mariah
speaking?
Ogunfitimi. This is Mariah Ogunfitimi.
Right.
What caterer was on site?
I believe Mr. Collins spoke to a caterer, and I do believe that name is in my letter, but I'm gonna look in my letter to find it. If Mr. Collins would want to jump in, I'd invite him to do that.
It was
If
just an
that's okay with
offhanded
me.
conversation when they were out back cooking and prepping food.
Mr. I'm sorry.
Oh, sorry.
for
This
the
is
court
this is
reporter,
Sean.
Mr.
This is Sean Collins.
Okay.
We're the closest neighbor, and during one of these events, there was a group of people cooking food outside, right behind our house, and I spoke to them, and they said that they were with a catering company called Eat to Live. But that's just one specific example.
Okay, so you did mention that entity in a protest letter. So the question becomes whether or not they are a licensed caterer. That was the name of the entity holding the event, maybe, or preparing the food, but whether or not they are a licensed caterer would be the question. Mr. Collins, why do you believe they were caterers?
Because they were cooking food outside of their space while they were preparing for a concert, and they told me that they were the caterers, and that they said that that was the name of their catering company.
I see. So, just a second. And what was the name of it again? Eat
to Live is the name that they said.
I believe you mentioned them in your protest letter.
They're definitely in mine. Sorry, Vijay Kapoor. They're definitely in mine, and that was in concurrence with the October 24th, 2024 event, which I acknowledge is outside of the 45 days of my submission of the protest letter.
Yes.
Sorry, if I may, I find the level of fact finding that's being put on the community on this issue to be a little disappointing. I am doing my best here to follow ABCA's guidance on what is needed to be done. I am working under the presumption, not necessarily that within 45 days of my submission of the protest letter, there was a licensed caterer serving alcohol on site, but under a presumption, and well, under the knowledge that these events are occurring, under pretty fair certainty that alcohol is being served at these events, under pretty fair certainty that money is being exchanged in order to have these events, and that ABCA's role in our government is to regulate the exchange of money for alcohol service or alcohol with nexus to alcohol service. And so these are my presumptions. And in following ABCA's guidance, I filed a protest hearing site license. What I'm hearing is that we're going in the direction of, and I'll note, we went back and forth to make sure that this protest catered site license was well formed, specifically on the matter of whether the parties were appropriate. And so I feel like I've done everything I possibly can. The request was made for 2 years of events and caterers. the list was not submitted it wasn't an empty list. There wasn't a certified letter stating that no such events occurred within the past 2 years. And so, I even specifically anticipated that possibly would be here without the list. So I'm just like, I've done everything I possibly can on this matter, and I would hope that the board would understand that even if the letter of what constitutes a catered site protest license was not met here, I am not being given any other guidance or any other recourse for how to proceed and how to engage in this fact finding, which I cannot possibly, other than breaking down the doors of a building within my SMD, I can't possibly gain this much information.
I understand 100%. I have a question for Mr. Morayo.
Yes.
The events held on January 5 and January 11 by your church members,
Yes.
at those events were alcoholic beverages served?
No.
So there were no alcoholic beverages served at either one of those events?
No.
Mr. Collins or Commissioner Kapoor, did you have any information to the contrary?
So yeah, just to provide a little context, so we're the closest neighbor. Mariah runs the International House of Prayer, or is their point person. They operate on a lot that has a parking lot, a building, and another building, which is really the building in question that they've been using as a community space called Community Space DC. If you go to the Community Space DC website, you'll see that they have rules around catering operations, and they have rules around bringing and using alcohol at the site. You'll also see that they have an Instagram where they're serving food and serving alcohol on their Instagram. We've walked past and seen them having a bar set up inside of their community space. You can see when they're having events and parties that people are drinking alcohol in their parking lot. And again, really this stemmed from the fact that they were holding events typically on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sundays, which were pretty loud. They didn't have a soundproofing, and Mariah's been, pretty amicable and communicating with me about trying to get some soundproofing up. But really, this was a soundproofing issue because you could hear their events throughout the neighborhood. Neighbors signed on to try to get some type of enforcement mechanism underway because, it was confusing as to how there could be enforcement in place regarding this issue. We also looked in through DLCP and found that they didn't have the licenses to be operating in their event space as a community space, as like a concert hall. They didn't have a certificate of occupancy. So there were a lot of misplaced licensures and paperwork as well. So
Yes.
we had on, communicated through with inspectors through the city, written statements saying that they have issued notifications of infractions for a variety of lack of licensing, and also to VJ's point, going through ABCA for other types of. Really, the hope is to get into some type of a settlement agreement, I would imagine, where there's something on paper in terms of their hours of operations, the sound that they can produce. That's where the community is. We're trying to get some regulations so that we can, continue to be good neighbors and, coexist with each other. And I will say that with this leading up to this, the church has significantly reduced the number of events that they're having. They've reduced the sound that they've been producing, and it seems like, we're heading in the right track, but we want to get something on paper and documented about, moving forward, hopefully together. And I'm not sure if Mariah is still on the call. He might have actually dropped off, but
Yeah, I see he left. I'm going to see if he reappears. Has the ANC or you, Mr. Collins, filed a complaint with the enforcement division regarding this matter, or have you only filed a protest at this stage?
No, this is Sean. And yes, this is Sean Collins. And yes, we have filed multiple tickets with different regulatory agencies, mostly through DLCP. But VJ, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it was another agency as well that they directed us to, maybe Department of Buildings.
Yeah.
Just back to DLCP.
She's asking about, sorry, this is Vijay Kapoor. She's asking about ABCA enforcement. And to that point, yeah, I did just read into the record recently in the last 10 minutes a specific ABCA enforcement case.
Yeah, I was asking, Mr. Collins, if his group has also actually filed a complaint with the Enforcement Division. And yeah, Commissioner, you did mention that you had filed.
That's actually, it was filed by Mr. Collins, but I referenced it in my letter.
Okay, just a second. So 1 second, please. Mr. Collins, the complaint that you filed with the Enforcement Division is separate from the protest that you filed? It was a separate document?
I believe so. This is Sean Collins. Yes, I believe so. It would be like a ticket that we received from the city inspector confirming that they, did their inspection and issued an NOI.
But you did file a complaint with ABCA's Enforcement Division?
I believe. VJ, did we?
Yeah, so what happened was, so DLCP recommended an ABCA Enforcement Division ticket. That one was opened under the ticket number that I read. I don't know the resolution of that ticket, but I have the ticket number.
Right,
And that would I can tell you the filing date was either January 11th, maybe January 12th, 13th, it was within that time frame.
Okay, I see here that on January 9, 2025, DLCP, that is the acronym for what?
The Department of Licensing and Consumer Protection.
That an investigator there indicated re-engaging in observation after the holidays, and recommended a new complaint with ABCA for more effective enforcement. And they're under ABCA, with ABCA under, and then there's the citation of a number, which is not ours. That must be a case number for DLCP. And beyond that point, Mr. Collins, you actually filed a complaint with ABCA's Enforcement Division? Do you know?
I believe so.
I apologize for the error. I do have that down there as an ABCA ticket number, but if it's not, that was an error on my part.
Yes, that's DLC. That's a number for DLCP. That's not one of our case numbers.
Excuse me, this is Mariah. I lost connection for a second, so I don't know what happened the last 5-10 minutes.
So what happened in the last 5 minutes or so is I was trying to determine whether or not a complaint has been filed with ABCA's Enforcement Division. You mentioned, Mr. Morayo, that the events held on January 5, 2025 and January 11, 2025 were not held by licensed caterers, but by your church members, and that they were not selling or serving or consuming alcoholic beverages at either one of those events. And Mr. Collins mentioned that he had observed consumption of alcoholic beverages, right, Mr. Collins?
Correct.
But I don't believe sorry, this is VJ. I don't believe Mr. Collins is sure that alcoholic beverages were consumed on those 2 particular dates. Is that right?
In general, we have observed people like bars set up in there, like an alcohol serving station set up in there.
I hear you. But the letter, the what Ms. Fletcher is getting at specifically here is the specific events within 45 days of filing of the protest letter, whether that we can specifically cite the nexus of an event with alcohol service.
On those dates specifically, we don't have, visual confirmation.
Commissioner Kapoor, what's happening with the, did you say you requested a fact-finding hearing with the board?
I've filed this protest based on ABCA legal guidance that this was my best avenue for fact-finding on this matter.
I see. Thank you. 1 second. One second, please. I'm just making some notes. Commissioner Kapoor, let me ask you something. So at this stage, I guess this applies to you also, Mr. Collins. At this stage, there is um, there's no certainty as to whether or not these events were held by licensed caterers. According to Mr. Morayo, he said that the events were held by church members for the January 5 and January 11 events, and that they would not have applied for temporary liquor licenses because there were no alcoholic beverages served or consumed at the establishment. They were just church members holding an event. Mr. Morayo, what kind of events were they on January 5 and 11? What kind of events were they?
One was a birthday party. I think that was for my wife, and the other one was a birthday party for my cousin.
Uh, okay, so do you know which one was the birthday party for your wife?
The 25th.
The 5th?
The 25th.
The 25th? So I had the dates of January 5, 2025 and January 11, 2025. So was there an event?
January 11th was one of our members. Her name was Tamika, one of the members from the church.
Okay.
I thought you said the 25th.
Okay, you mentioned a birthday party for your wife and one for your cousin.
No, both of those were just members. I mean,
both of those were just members.
Yeah, they're members, but I mean, she's still like a cousin because she's married to one of my cousins.
Oh, I understand. Okay, but those events were not catered licensed events. Those were members of the church holding events at the church.
Mhm.
Okay, so second.
Jeez.
Okay, Commissioner Kapoor, is there anything else that you would like to add to what you said already?
Yes. So I just want to note, I understand that we are discussing here procedural matters, and I have written everything I had in my letters, in an attempt to move things forward and to get ABCA to investigate, fact find, understand the um, nexus between operations at this space and what APCA's enforcement purview is, and regulatory purview is. I acknowledge I cannot say for sure. I cannot produce evidence that alcohol was served within the 45 days of my submission, nor can I necessarily confirm what money was exchanged for any particular event. But what I do know is we are there was a request, we got to the process of the order, of the board ordering this roll call hearing occur. There was a request of the applicant to produce a list of events and caterers for the preceding 2 years, with the deadline of this roll call hearing. That
That's
event does not appear to have been produced.
Yes.
That list, right? And that list could have been a blank list, if it's true that there has been no nexus of catered site alcohol licensure and alcohol service at 1915 Rhode Island Avenue Northeast. Then the list could simply say that it was a blank list.
Yes.
Additionally, and so as a matter of procedural, procedural supremacy, right? If what I don't know what would have occurred had either one of us not attended today, right? The equivalent on an application, if the applicant or the protestant doesn't show up, is that the protest is dismissed if the protestant doesn't show up, or the applicant or the application is dismissed if the applicant doesn't show up. I don't know what the commensurate procedural remedy is here for not producing that list. We are having difficulty speaking to the facts of the case because that aspect of the board order was not met. And so it'd be frustrating to me. I can simply say it'd be frustrating to me if this entire thing were dismissed and sent back to baseline, based on the fact that I can't produce the evidence, which would be very difficult for me to produce for specifically a specific event, that a nexus of alcohol, the nexus of payment for that event. And so I hope that's not what's about to occur.
Anything that you would like to add to what you said, Mr. Collins?
Yes, this is Mr. Collins. I mean, as the closest neighbor, we can literally hear every single event that they have, and they've been having events less so frequently recently, but over the course of the last year, there were times where they were having events on Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday night. Loud music into the evening, people drinking out of red cups in their parking lot, bars set up in their lobby, very clearly, serving alcohol on their website. To book an event that's open to the public, they have rules on their website about consuming alcohol on the premises. They have rules about working with caterers and bringing caterers into their site. So it feels disingenuous to feel like, these types of events weren't happening or are ongoing. And again, it's really the goal of us as a community to work with Mario, to continue being, good neighbors, and to come to hopefully some type of written settlement agreement where there's parameters that are respectful to the community on how their business operates. And that's really the goal of what we're working towards today, based on the guidelines that we've received from city inspectors, based on the guidelines that we got from ABCA, right? We don't want this to be an adversarial relationship or in any type of really legal dispute at all. We want really to resolve this hopefully today, with a settlement agreement, hopefully mandated by ABCA, so that we can get something in writing and work this out. Because again, per the, as going through this process, we also received confirmation that, they don't have the licenses to be operating as they are currently. That is also a baseline that's part of this conversation as well. So we're trying to come to an agreement where we can resolve this. But to VJ's point, the burden of proof on us is so extremely high. I don't know what else we can really do from our side to present the case, that this has had a negative impact on members of the community.
Mr. Mario, the list that you were required to provide to the board was a list of licensed caterers at your establishment over the past 2 years. You didn't provide any list at all. You didn't respond at all. So first of all, I would recommend that you respond in some way to that request. If there were no licensed caterers at the location, then you would just say that you don't have a list of them because there weren't any.
Okay.
So the first thing is I would recommend that you provide that list, whatever it may be, to the ABC board, and you would submit that to ABCA Legal. Do you have the email address for ABCA Legal?
I believe I do. If not,
I can tell you what it is.
yes, please, just in case.
It's going to be abca.legal. That's ABCA abca.legal at dc.gov.
Okay.
And I just want to clarify something.
Send that over today.
Okay, Perfect. And I would like to clarify something, Commissioner and Mr. Collins. At this point, you have not heard anything from ABCA related to a fact-finding hearing.
Not to my knowledge. Nobody has
Okay.
suggested I can request a fact-finding hearing, although I would be happy to submit that request if that's a thing I can do.
And at this stage, there may not have been a complaint filed with the enforcement division. Maybe not at this point. Maybe not.
I do not have a complaint ticket number on hand, but I'm pretty sure, and I have not personally filed one, but I'm pretty sure Mr. Collins has filed one, and if we worked a little bit, we could probably find the ticket number for it.
So
Yeah.
there won't be a ticket number when you file a complaint with us. You're going to get a case number, just so that you know. So, Mr. Collins, can you clarify something for me? You're not sure at this point that you filed an actual complaint with ABCA's enforcement division.
I'm looking for it right now, but we have.
Okay, and so were you contacted by anybody from ABCA when you filed that letter complaint with enforcement? Do you know at this stage? If you don't, it's okay. I'm just trying to.
I'm gonna look for it now. I have the ticket number from Alexander Blakesley, the DLCP inspector, who confirmed on February 21st, reference number FIM 596HY, that an investigation of our concerns by this office resulted in the respondent being in violation of not having a business license or trade name with the District of Columbia, and a notice of infraction was issued. So that came from DLCP. And then I believe the ABCA inspector was Garcia.
Mariah from International House of Prayer. Yeah, we have since attained that business license as well.
What did you say?
I said we have attained our business license.
Okay.
This is Vijay Kapoor. Yeah, I'm acknowledging that the subject matter here is strictly whether ABCA enforcement has been called, and the evidence that the ABCA enforcement call has occurred, and a ticket number for that.
So, Mr. Collins,
An inspector was sent out.
an inspector from DLCP.
From ABCA.
So an ABCA investigator came to the establishment.
Yes.
So what happened when they came?
He came and investigated the property. He went looking for alcohol. There was none on the premise. I haven't received a report or anything from whatever was done, but he did come, walk through the venue, check the refrigerators and everything, to make sure that it was no alcohol being served.
Do you by chance know when that was? Approximately? In the last month, or?
It was probably about, I would say 2 months ago.
Did they say why they were there?
They said they had received report that we were selling or serving alcohol. They mentioned Sean Collins' name or Vijay Kapoor's name.
Okay, and so okay, thank you. So Mr. Collins, there's an indication that you did file a complaint, and as a result of filing that complaint, an ABCA investigator went out to investigate to determine if there were any alcoholic beverages being served, checked the refrigerator. Mr. Morayo,
Yes.
do you by chance know the name of the investigator?
I think his last name was Garcia.
Yes, this is Sean Collins.
George Garcia.
George Garcia.
Second. And so, Mr. Collins, were you aware before today that an investigator went to the establishment?
I'm sorry. This is Sean. I couldn't hear what you said. You were
Oh,
turning.
I was saying, were you aware before today that an investigator went out to the establishment based on your complaint? Excuse me 1 second. I can hear you.
I did not receive follow-up from George Garcia in resolution of that ticket or complaint.
Okay, so before today, you weren't aware that the enforcement division acted on your complaint?
I had we were working with a more responsive inspector from DLCP named Alexander Blakesley, who in the course of his conversation let me know that George Garcia completed his investigation as he was wrapping up his tickets, but that was, months later.
But you haven't received anything from our agency related to the results of their investigation?
Correct.
This is Vijay Kapoor. If I can jump in, what we're seeing is a pattern of some difficulty trying to ascertain from ABCA, specifically procedures, specifically the results of investigations. It would appear that if it is the case that in the past 2 years no licensed caterer was serving alcohol on the premises, I'm wondering and concerned that the response from ABCA should that be the conclusion of the fact finding that has yet to complete before this roll call hearing, that there would be no enforcement nexus with ABCA and there'd be no course of action where ABCA would have responsibility to regulate alcohol service for a property that is also engaging in space rental, commercial space rental, if there's no licensed caterer on site, which is to say that, or temporary licensing on site, which is to say that if there's no proper licensing for alcohol service in a property being used for commercial purposes, then APCA has no enforcement authority because there was no licensing. And I'm concerned that that's where this is going, and so I just want to note that for the record.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Morayo, do you have anything you would like to add to what you said already, or have you pretty much provided as much clarity as you can related to the issues we're discussing today?
I'm sorry. No, I don't really have anything additional to add. My only, I guess, thing would have been it would have been great for us as a community to just sit down and discuss. I don't see that we have to get to this point. I've had many conversations with Sean. I don't think we have any issues between us. And I don't think that he means anything negative towards the church, and we don't mean anything negative, to our community. If anything, we want to serve the community more, So, to me, I think this is something that we could sit down and see what we can figure out, amongst ourselves.
Okay, so here's what the outcome of the roll call hearing is going to be today. The outcome of the roll call hearing today is going to be that both protests are dismissed, and I'll tell you why. And then, of course, you will have the ability to motion the board for reconsideration, but there hasn't been identified any licensed caterer that held any event at the establishment, or that alcoholic beverages may have been served at the premises. We don't know at this point, Mr. Collins. Commissioner, you mentioned a fact-finding hearing, which may be the appropriate thing to happen. There are facts here. Commissioner, you mentioned that if you had additional time, you might be able to come up with some additional information related to the events. There's no, at this point, the International House of Prayer for All People has not been identified as the licensed caterer holding the event. And so we don't have, as a party to this protest, any licensed caterer. And that entity would have needed to be present today, but based on what I've heard so far, there may not be a licensed caterer
Can I,
involved
res-
at all.
can I
So
respond?
at this point, none of us have any way of knowing that at this moment. And according to Mr. Moreo, I call you something different every time. I'm sorry. But at this point, based on what you're saying, church members had some events. There were no alcoholic beverages served. We don't have any information to the contrary at this stage. And so I'm going to dismiss both protests. And what I would have recommended is that you pursue an enforcement action, which you did already, Mr. Collins, but you don't know the result of that yet. You haven't gotten there hasn't been an investigative report, and you haven't heard from the enforcement division at this point.
Correct, but that was something that we submitted in February, and the office has been unresponsive to our inquiries.
Okay, let me make a note of that, just 1 second. And Mr. Collins, the inquiries that you made, were they to the enforcement division?
I believe so. To the inspector, his name was George Garcia.
And you contacted George Garcia?
I was notified that he was the person put on the case, but I never heard back about in regards to what their investigation found.
And Commissioner Kapoor, will the ANC be requesting a fact-finding hearing, or have you done that already?
I was not aware that this type of request existed, but now that I am, I'm happy to file that. If I may, just 2 points I want to make.
Yes.
So point number 1 is that I completely agree with Mr. Moreo and Mr. Collins that what our goal here is a settlement agreement. I am dismayed that should we be dismissing the protest, we are not able to go to the next step of having an ABCA mediated session for such a settlement agreement to occur. The way this was designed was that we would go into such a mediation with the fact finding supplied by the applicant in hand. I think Mr. Collins and I have each done all the work we possibly can do to put in writing and to sign off on and even go back and forth with ABCA on all the information we had to get to this
Yes.
point.
Yes.
It was the burden had then been put on the applicant to produce on their side the list of 2 years worth of catered site events. This simply did not occur. The deficiency was entirely on the applicant's side, there's no applicant, on the protestee's side, and not on the protestant's side. And so I find it, I will. Obviously, I'm presuming I'm going to have to submit an appeal, and this will be the crux of that appeal. That
Yes.
it should, if this had been an application, I feel like the case would have been fairly strong to simply dismiss the application. There's no then the analogy here, which I tried my hardest to get from ABCA immediately after this roll call hearing was set. Of what happens if there was a deficiency of the protestee to supply the requested information or to fail to show, for instance, which didn't occur, thankfully, but could have, what the consequences would be. And the response I got was, we don't know. And so it does appear the consequences now of a deficiency on the part of the protestee would be to have the protests dismissed. And that's really disheartening for the amount of work the community has done in order to get accountability in this matter.
Well, in terms of the list, that would be a separate issue from that list would have been submitted to the ABC board. And so the ABC board will have to decide what the consequences will be. Even I don't know. Commissioner Kapoor, I have no idea what will be the consequences for not submitting that list. Mr. Morayo, you need to submit that list regardless of what it says, because you were required to do it before today. And you mentioned that you would do that today and submit that to ABCA Legal. Let me just clarify something for the record. The International House of Prayer for All People does not have a liquor license.
No.
Okay, I just wanted to clarify that for the record. And so we would have needed the licensed caterer present today.
If I may, Ms. Fletcher, I believe that the ABCA order does mention a catered site, a catering license attributed to International House of Prayer for All People. I'm
So
going to pull that up now.
We don't have a caterer license. I didn't.
So for
understand that
us,
too.
you would be considered, for us, you would be considered the owner of the venue.
Yes.
So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to report the outcome of the roll call hearing today. Commissioner Kapoor and Mr. Collins, you know already that you will be able to request a reconsideration of the decision that's been made today. And the board will take all of this into consideration. It's on the record, and they will decide whether or not there are protestants in this matter and valid protests in this matter. The board will make the final decision based on the record that's been presented today.
May I, this is Vijay Kapoor, can I enter one more thing into the record before we close out the record?
Yes.
I have, because I've pulled up the order from ABCA, and it does mention, it says International House of Prayer property owner as the owner of the property and event site located at 1915 Rhode Island Avenue Northeast, and as a licensed caterer, parentheses, ABRA license number 130347.
I see that.
Yes.
It does say exactly what you said. It does state that the International House of Prayer is the owner of the property and event site located in 1915 Rhode Island Northeast, and as a licensed caterer, ABRA license number 130347. And when you file your motion to reinstate the protest, you can mention that. Mr. Morayo, you said that you don't have a caterer's license, that the International House of Prayer does not have a
We're not
caterer's
familiar with
license. And
that.
so then at that point, the board can determine whether or not whose license number that is. I don't know whose license number.
I'm not sure either. That's
So at this point, I really don't know. And so I would just suggest that
how do we look into that?
well, you can contact the licensing division, and I'll send you an email when we're done
Okay.
to let you know who you can contact to find out whose license number that is. To your knowledge, Mr. Morayo, you don't have a liquor license, a catering license, not the
No.
church.
No.
Okay, so we don't know at this point. I assume, Commissioner Kapoor, that will be an issue that you raise in the motion for reconsideration. I'm gonna
Yes.
make a note. I'm gonna make a note of all this. I'm gonna report all this, and that the board should expect a motion to reinstate the protest from the protestants, and then you can go from there. Commissioner,
I'll just add, I would add just a pattern of uncertainty about the facts that I would really like to resolve, and I feel like this was our path forward for resolving them.
Exactly. And once the board reviews your motion to reinstate the protest, if the board decides that a mediation should be scheduled, with the International House of Prayer for All People, then they'll let me know. And then I would contact you, but the board will have to decide at this point what happens next. If there's going to be a fact finding, what happens next? Mr. Collins, I expect that you will hear something from the investigator. You did file an enforcement action, so that would give you some insight into what would happen next.
Yeah,
So,
can I just say something? Two things. One is that, this is Sean Collins. We filed that in February. It was extremely difficult communicating with ABCA. They were very unresponsive. And again, this is just like that. I guess that was, that's a one-off, right? Like we're not familiar with their schedule, what type of events that they're holding. Is this specific time that the one time that they went out to their inspection, they weren't having that type of event versus if they were to go at another time? So I'm to VJ's point, I'm just sort of at a loss as to like what else could we possibly have done in this situation. And my second question is, if Mario is open to it, is it possible for us to put together an agreement on our own outside of an ABCA mediator?
Yeah, you can do that outside of ABCA. The board will approve settlement agreements reached outside of the ABCA process.
But this is VJ. I can't possibly know what the terms for this particular scenario are. I have negotiated settlement agreements, at least a dozen settlement agreements with retailers, with bars, taverns. This is its own thing, and I am unclear on exactly what terms would be allowable and what would address the issues appropriately, which is why I was hoping that the next thing we'd be doing here is scheduling a mediation session.
And so the board could order that.
Okay, so I could also seek
when you file your motion for a reinstatement, you can ask the board to schedule mediation.
to file a mediation not associated with a particular protest.
Not associated, because you actually don't need to file a protest to enter into a settlement agreement.
But do we need to don't we need to protest in order to enter into mediation facilitated by ABCA?
No.
No? Okay. I sorry, then this is I was under the impression that the protest was the only way forward to possibly having mediation.
No, because but settlement agreements can be entered into between parties without ever filing a protest.
That I know, but in those cases that I have done, and I have done that, in those cases I did not have ABCA mediation at my disposal, which is helpful in cases where there's this much uncertainty.
Right.
So
and you're right. This is a brand new situation. The board is going to have to decide, what's going to happen, and they will decide what's going to happen next. And if they order me to schedule ABCA mediation, then I will do that. But they will have to guide all of us beyond this point.
Understood.
And so, thank you for coming. And if you have any other questions beyond today, you can submit them to me or ABCA Legal. I'm going to report the outcome today, and the board will make a decision about the outcome of this entire situation.
Understood.
And I thank you again for coming. I'm going to go ahead and conclude the roll call hearing, and we'll expect the motion for reinstatement. And Commissioner and Mr. Collins, if you would provide Mr. Morayo a copy of your request for reinstatement.
Sure thing.
Well, thank you all for coming, and we'll all see what happens next. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Fletcher. Thank you all.
Okay, take care. Bye, everybody.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Fletcher. I don't have any questions.
You're
and
very
always thank you
welcome.
for having